Sadly, their stories were never told. Neither were the treatments and harsh conditions they faced during the European winter. They were forgotten in the collective memory, but at least this brief documentary brings some to life. The 19th and the 20th century witnessed explorers and adventurers from scouting for new lands for colonial exploitation. Upon their return from these adventures, they described the people they saw to their native people. This created a desperate need for Westerners to see the people described by these explorers and adventurers. Thousands of natives were dubiously transported from Africa, Asia, and the Americas to the United States and Europe to satisfy the curiosity of these Westerners. These indigenous people were usually displayed in what would be termed human zoos. As recently as 1958, Asians and people of color were treated as exhibits that attracted millions of tourists. Human zoos existed in places such as Belgium, Paris, Hamburg, Barcelona, London, Milan, and New York City. A black village was exhibited in 1878 and 1889 during the Parisian World Fair. This attracted approximately 28 million people. Over 400 indigenous people acted as tourist attractions at the 1889 World Fair. 2 years before the Congo gained independence from Belgium, men, women, and children were shipped from the Congo to be exhibited in major cities in Belgium. Human zoos became a major tourist attraction during the early and mid part of the 19th century. Examples include the colonial exhibitions in Marseille in 1908 and 1922, and the display of humans in cages, often nude or semi-nude, in Paris in 1907 and 1931. The Paris exhibition in 1931 was one of the most successful, attracting over 34 million people within a pace of 6 months. Part of the humans on display were nomadic Senegalese villages. In association with the 1904 Summer Olympics, indigenous people from the Philippines known as Apaches and Igrots were displayed at the St. Louis World Fair. In 1906, a Congolese pygmy known as Ota Benga was put on display at the Bronx Zoo in New York City alongside apes and other animals. He was placed in a cage with a chimpanzee, an orangutan, and a parrot with the label "The Missing Link." This triggered a lot of protest, but the masses reportedly flocked to see the display. These humans placed on display in human zoos faced challenges. For example, in the freezing December temperatures, African tribal members were required to wear traditional African clothing intended for the tropical heat. Filipino villages were repeatedly made to perform a seasonal dog-eating ritual to amaze their audience. Last but not the least, the natives suffered from various illnesses due to the absence of drinking water and living with appalling sanitary conditions. It is imperative to explain that in most cases, there were no bars to prevent those in human zoos from escaping. As a matter of fact, majority of the natives, particularly those brought from other continents, had nowhere else to escape even if they chose to. Indigenous people were set up in mock ethnic villages or surroundings similar to where they once lived. They were made to carry out typical daily tasks such as showing off primitive skills like making stone tools and pantomime rituals. Indigenous people were also made to partake in fake battles or tests of strength. Many of those brought over to be displayed by the colonialists would either perish on the way or on arrival from the torments of the long journeys or exposure to new diseases in Europe. Surprisingly, there was no outcry to end the display of humans in cages. In the years leading up to World War II and beyond, the public's time diverted and concentrated much more on the business of geographical tensions and economic collapse, such as persistent trade deficits, wars, revolutions, famines, depletion of important resources, etc. By the middle to the end of the 20th century, television replaced the need for a traveling company of acrobats, clowns, and other entertainments or otherwise as the preferred mode of entertainment, and the display of indigenous people for entertainment fell out of fashion.